Hey, it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise My Asexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual, and I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. So please subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. So in this live stream, I'm going to be reviewing the movie Doctor Strange, which is a Marvel movie. So if you love superhero movies, then stay tuned. But if you don't want spoilers, please do not watch this video. So, Doctor Strange is the original film. It's a prequel to the sequel. The sequel was a multiverse of madness or something similar to that. So I watched the multiverses of madness basically, but I hadn't watched the first one, the original Doctor Strange. And I'm sure I'm going to get someone correct me on that. Like, they're going to say it's not multiverses of madness. They're going to say it's something slightly different. But anyway, it is Doctor Strange, and I do love them. I do love the movies. It even says here like the sequels and stuff like that. So yeah, you can view it. There's a lot of multiverse of madness. Yeah, I have got it right. So, Doctor Strange, what happens? So in the first movie, which I hadn't seen, it was quite exciting stuff. Doctor Strange is actually like a neuroscientist, and he's actually a doctor that performs some surgery on people. And everyone comes to him thinking he can solve their problems, like their very bad physical problems. And he can work his magic with the surgery he does and save lives. You see at one point in the beginning of the movie where someone is pronounced dead and they're not actually dead yet. They've got a bullet like lodged and it's basically severed a nerve, and that's why they look like they're dead, but they're not actually dead yet. So Doctor Strange goes in there, takes over, does an operation, and the patient is saved. So this obviously shows us that Doctor Strange is really good at what he does. He's an expert in his field. He knows what he's doing. And he really does love saving people's lives and helping people. However, there's this dark side to him, if you like, because he likes helping people for the glorification of it, not just because he helps people. It's an ego-driven thing. So he wants people to think he's amazing. He wants to keep his track record up of healing people. So if there's anyone he feels he can't actually help, he will refuse to help them. So in life, people have good sides and they have dark sides. They have what they call a shadow self. And a shadow self, this is in reality, a shadow self is like the dark parts of you. Usually everyone has the capacity to be a bad person, to be a dark person. They have these things within them as a human being that could turn into the darkness. So everyone you meet, including the people that have a heart of gold and would never hurt anyone, usually it's because they've chosen that path. They've chosen not to ignite the darkness within them or not pay attention and give light to that part of them. However, it's important to acknowledge every single part of ourselves for self-awareness. And Doctor Strange is a movie that's built on spirituality, self-awareness, and it talks a lot about ego in this movie, which I was quite interested in because I'm a person who is spiritual by nature. I'm very at one with my intuition and I'm guided by it at all times. And if I ever steer off that, which I don't anymore, but if I ever do, then it lands me in deep, deep trouble. So I have an ego, and so does everyone else. And the more I become self-aware, the more I realize when my ego is at play. So basically, an ego is something that drives fear. It's something that makes you do something for more selfish reasons, for reasons of the self, and it's designed to get you what you want to do. It's a survival mechanism, really. In like hazardous conditions, you want to be able to self-survive, keep yourself going, and so this ego kind of kicks in. I don't think everything's bad about the ego. I think the ego can help us to be confident, but also it can enable us to be arrogant if we're not careful. and the ego can help us to survive and to thrive in this world under really harsh conditions. So I don't think the ego's bad completely, but I do know that the ego can cause a lot of problems in relationships and friendship and in general getting on in life. So Doctor Strange is doing things from an egotistical point of view, not just to help the patient. And he refuses people who he thinks he cannot actually save at all, and they're unsavable, they're unhealable, because if he wasn't able to heal them, he basically loses his track record of being able to heal everyone like 100%. So he refuses to heal some people. And this comes to bite him back in the bum later on, if you like. So what happens is he gets into an accident. In fact, someone runs him off the road. And I would argue that it's probably, maybe predetermined that this person did this. They may have known that they wanted specifically to remove him off the road because it might be someone who he refused to help before. But they never delved into any of that in the movie about why he was run off the road. It was just a case of you accept he was run off the road, but the consequences are his hands are damaged and he's got basically metal plates in all his fingers. Therefore, he cannot perform surgery anymore. And surgery is like his life, and he doesn't know what to do anymore. And he wants his hands to be able to work again. And he talks to this physiotherapist and say, like, no one, like it's useless trying to do these exercises. No one has ever healed. And the guy's like, well, one guy did heal. This physiotherapist like, one guy did heal. And Doctor Strange is like, how? Like, I don't believe you. So he had to prove to Doctor Strange by getting this guy's medical records that he can get and give to Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange is technically a doctor. Although I'd argue probably isn't at this point, from the pure simple fact that he's not doing surgery anymore, but he might have been a consultant. Because I'm thinking, how did he get the records if he's not actually a doctor anymore, but he keeps his doctor's name throughout the whole movie anyway? But if he hasn't actually able to do doctor's duties anymore, I don't think he'd be allowed access to medical records anymore. So that was a bit of a lack of continuity. But if you have any ideas about that, please feel free to post them in the comments. And so anyway, he has his hands severely damaged with pins in them, feeling sorry for himself, again, ego-driven, rather than thinking, what can I do to help myself? How can I get out of this situation? It's very much focused on him feeling sorry for himself and everything's impossible. And so this guy gets the records and says this guy had basically severe nerve damage down his back, but he managed to recover. And Doctor Strange's like, it's impossible. I saw this guy. And he's like, well, it happened. And then he's got the proof. And so he visits this guy. Doctor Strange visits this guy and finds out, like, what is going on. And this guy says that he was sent to this special, basically sacred place where he learned, in spiritual terms, how to free himself of his injury and be able to fully recover. But he says a warning to Doctor Strange that if you go and do that, there is other consequences. There is things beyond this that you don't probably even know about and not aware of that'll blow your mind. But it's if you dare go down that route. So Doctor Strange, he basically throws the help of the one he loves back in her face. She's been trying to help him throughout his journey on getting back to being better. She was there at the hospital when he was having surgery and she got him through it, but he's become a horrible type of person because he's so fixated on himself and not being able to get better, and fixated on what he's lost rather than seeing what's in front of him, which is this beautiful girl he dated and how much she actually does love him. And so he basically pushes her away. She gets fed up with it and says, I can't see you doing this to yourself. And off she goes out of his life. And he then embarks on this journey to go to like these special sacred place to find out how this guy had his back healed. And he ends up being in this like sanctuary place where there's someone called the Ancient One. Now, at first, when he goes there, he's driven by ego. So he's all about himself. Like, I want to get better. I want my hands healed no matter what. But he doesn't care about the philosophies of the people that are there in this sacred place. All he cares about is his hands being better. He doesn't care about how that happens, and he doesn't believe in things he can't see or explain logically with science. And there's a lot of things in life that we can't explain with logic. And intuition is not about logic. Intuition is about following your gut instinct, that inner knowing. I have intuition in my real life. So this film, although it's a fictitious film in lots of ways, Doctor Strange, I think it does have a lot of bearing on reality. And I loved the spiritual aspect of that because I feel that way myself. And I have known of people who say they can do astral projection and come out their own body and stuff like that. I choose not to want to see or do anything like that in my life because it just freaks me out. But in terms of spirituality and being able to believe in things that you can't see or there's no logical explanation, I do really believe in that. I do believe dreams can come true. I do believe that inner knowing in your being and of things happening the way you want them to happen, expect them to happen, and sometimes things don't expect happen exactly the way we expect them. They go in a different way, but they still usually turn out right, if that makes sense. So I really like the fact this Doctor Strange movie is based on a lot of spirituality, based on the struggles that this guy has, this character Doctor Strange has, with the reality as he sees it of logic and science, and the Ancient Ones telling him it's about your mind. It's about what you put into your mind, what you believe. It's about clearing all those negative beliefs and not going back to what you thought you knew. Excuse me. It's about focusing on what is to come and what is possible. And so I really like this because in life, people do get fixated on themselves and their own problems. Most people are in their own heads. I used to suffer depression for years, and when you suffer depression, you get fixated on yourself and all the problems and all the bad things that are happening or anything that's not happening as well. Like your life's so boring and you've got nowhere to go and got nothing to do, this type of thing. But when we get into service, when we think about helping others and how can we help others, how can we make them smile and happy, how can we be of service to others, and how can we, integrate with others and how can we help others, this is when we actually stop focusing on ourselves, stop focusing on negativity and realize anything is possible. I, in my life, last year and the year before, broke my ankle. I broke the same ankle last year, worse than the year before. And it took me a lot of pain. This is in real life, but obviously I'm comparing it to Doctor Strange because Doctor Strange is in his hands, right? But Doctor Strange didn't believe he could get better. I believed I could get better. I know I can get better because I believe that. And when you believe something so categorically strong and you just have this inner knowing that you can put something right yourself, then you'll do it. There's a saying by Tony Robbins, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. I'll repeat that. Whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. This means if you believe you can't do something, you're not capable of it, you're absolutely right. You won't be capable of it. You won't achieve it. But if you believe something's possible and you are capable, even if it seems impossible to other people, you will do it because you have this inner knowing and belief. Some people in very traumatic circumstances who don't really usually see themselves as having any strength can actually be really strong in very dire circumstances. So never underestimate the power and ability of the human being, of the great strength that lies within you in real life. I managed to get my ankle back so I can just do high octane energetic dancing again. And my ankle wasn't really healed the first time. The second time is healed now because I kept the boot on for longer, despite my physio wanting me to take it off quicker, because I choose to acknowledge that I know best for my own body overall. Yes, a doctor can say things about me that I didn't necessarily know, but at the end of the day, it's down to me to understand my own body, understand how I work. One of the people that came to an asexual meetup, she said, "Oh, I wouldn't be going out dancing so soon, even if I was better in a few months." So I'm like, "But I am because I'm not." She's afraid, and I'm not afraid. Because I know that I can heal myself because it is healed. My ankle is capable of dancing again. So it's all about the power of self-belief and about an inner knowing and about doing what's right for you. You know, not just what the doctors say. People follow doctors blindly. I'm not saying doctors are wrong. I go to the doctor sometimes for a diagnosis of something that I'm not sure about. And then I treat myself often. Not all the time. Occasionally I have antibiotics, but a lot of the time, right? And well, maybe I've had antibiotics a little bit more than I'd like, but you know, it's for an infection that just won't go away, even though I have natural cough medicine. So there are times when I go to the doctors, I do use some medication by doctors, for example, antibiotics, but in general, I don't have medication, even though I've got an autoimmune condition, fibromyalgia. So you imagine using the power of my mind. This is what I'm saying. The mind is so powerful that we're able to do things with it and help our bodies in spite of the reality of the situation, what you make it. And the thing I loved about the Doctor Strange is it was always trying to say, look, what is your reality? Reality is what you make it. And the special effects, I've still got a bad chest at the moment. The special effects in Doctor Strange were absolutely incredible. They reminded me of Inception a lot. And all these buildings kind of distort, they all move around, they all chop and change. And some of the effects were just mind-blowing, especially when Doctor Strange is like falling through the sky and going through different multiverses and doing the astral projection and really, really, really good special effects. I would highly recommend this movie. If you're a sex repulsed asexual, there is some romance with Doctor Strange and this woman. There's not a load of romance, and it's more of a love feeling than a pure explosive romance. It's more of a feeling between two people, a caring feeling rather than a romantically based feeling as such. Obviously, they are romantic attractions, but it's more based on love and care. You know, like you don't see them doing really romantic stuff much apart from she kisses him on the cheek, you know, and stuff like that. So yeah, but you see she really genuinely cares about him and he does her later on as well. He always has, but he didn't realise how lucky he was to have her. But once he's gone to this special sacred place, after the time he's been studying at this place, he's been learning about spells, using books, been learning about powers and everything. So he then becomes a powerful sorcerer. And he actually ends up defending like planet Earth from these bad people, if you like. So they're people who, like, one of the people was healed by I understand they were healed by the Ancient One themselves, but then they realized the Ancient One was stealing the dark side power and used it for herself, which she said for others not to do. And so therefore he turned to the dark side himself, thinking it was better and it gives forever life, you know? Which we see later on in the movie it doesn't, because she apparently dies. But I've seen her in the other movie, the sequel, I'm sure of it. So she's still alive in another multiverse, it would seem, from what I remember. But correct me if I'm wrong on that. And so anyway, Doctor Strange becomes a sorcerer. He doesn't want to be, he just wants to heal his hands, but then realizes that he's got to help save the planet, save the world, be a protector of it. And the more he goes into this life, the more he becomes who he's meant to be. And his hands heal slowly and slowly, because he is being who he's truly born to be. He's not just saving one life, he's saving thousands of lives in the world. And I think that's really important. Every life matters. But if Earth is under threat, then if you don't help the majority of people, you aren't helping anyone. So it's really important that Doctor Strange realizes this. And in part of the movie, Doctor Strange actually dies, and his ex-girlfriend, who's a woman that's taking care of him, actually brings him back to life. But she sees some of the weird stuff that's going on with him, like the astral projection she sees, and some of the sorcery stuff, where she finds it really hard to believe, but she loves him so much that she tries to help him. She saves his life. She can't save the Ancient One's life, but she saves his life. And although she sews him up, I was thinking, how does he go about his day like being a sorcerer and kicking ass when he's just been like hurt, were basically stabbed, and she's had to repair him. So anyway, there is some really interesting scenes when she's basically getting him to live, and towards the very end of the film, he realizes that she matters loads to him, and that he loves her, and he treated her really badly before. He actually says, "I treated you so badly before. You do deserve better." It's a film where, that part of the film is like what you dream about happening in real life is some guy or person that's hurt you. You dream of them coming back and saying, "Hey, I treated you really badly. I was selfish, basically. I was arrogant. And I'm truly sorry. I shouldn't have behaved like that, and you deserve better." That's kind of like your dream scenario, right? Of what you'd like someone to do who you cared about and loved. And finally, for them to realize and appreciate who you are. Doesn't usually happen like that in real life, but occasionally it can happen. I got one guy coming back into my life who apologized for the way he treated me when I was 16 years old. Came back into my life years later because he pressurized me into having sex for the first time ever in my life when I was 16. And he did come back and apologize like years later. It was out of the blue in my work he found me. So yeah, that was quite interesting. And I was grateful he did that. He doesn't stop the hurt and damage he caused at that time and the ripple effects of that, but it does make it easier to come to terms with what happened, to move on in my life, and and actually have someone. He's the only person that's ever apologized to me, right, and actually meant it. So I think the dream scenario is that you get someone like Doctor Strange's character, but in real life doing that. Say, because the Doctor Strange's character has gone through a transformation of being ego driven and doing things with ulterior motives because it gives him like prestige, like healing people, and pushing away the ones that really care about him, or one that really cares about him. He's gone through that journey of self-discovery to realize that ego doesn't help us in life. Ego does not allow us to feel intuition. It does not allow us to progress in our life, in our mind's life. It just stops us doing a lot of things because ego drives fear. It's a thing inside your head that says, "Hey, you can't do this, you're not good enough." Like, and it's a thing that drives fear to protect us, and our brain is hardwired to keep us safe all the time, but sometimes it just stops us and holds us back from living our dream life, for doing things differently. And I meet a lot of guys online that are very ego driven in terms of dating. They'd rather have their pride than actually admit when they're wrong to a woman, and that's their downfall, right? You don't want to ever be with someone who's too ego driven and too egotistical to even say sorry when they hurt your feelings, when they put, if they shouldn't be putting you down anyway, but if they do, they should be like saying, "I'm really sorry. I was an ass," and a lot of guys these days can't do it. If you reject them, instead of thinking, "Well, why has she rejected me? How was I being an asshole to her?" They're like thinking, "Oh, she rejected me. I'll just be horrible to her now, or just, not ignore her or something," and this isn't good. So I really like the Doctor Strange movie for that reason. It was teaching the audience all about ego, and that nothing good comes from ego. All that comes from ego is basically hurt and pain, and you hurt yourself in the end by having a huge ego because people can't get close to you. You push away the ones that could be close to you, that could be good for you, and you end up with people in your life just doing things that aren't good because you've driven away love, you've driven away happiness, you've driven away people that were good for you because you're too focused on yourself and feeding your own self-importance. And so it's important with the Doctor Strange movie to actually take a stock of your life and say, "Hey, how am I in real life? What's going on for me? Am I kind, caring? Am I loving and compassionate, or do I just make my life all about me? Do I feel so hard done by in life that I don't care about other people, that the people who are there cheering you on, caring for you, loving for you, listening to you, you don't think about them. You just think about the people that aren't good for you, or are horrible to you, or the bad life you have, because what we focus on expands. People won't be around forever, or high quality people who value themselves won't be around forever if you just keep trampling over them and pushing them away." And like I said, a lot of guys do this in dating. They have a really good woman who really loves and cares about them, really kind and caring, but they don't see the value in that person. So they don't treat them well. They leave their life. And then years later, they often regret it because they end up with a person that doesn't treat them well. And they're thinking, hang on a minute, like this person's treating me so badly. They're trying to control me. They don't really care about me. They're using me as a doormat. Yeah, if they'd stayed with the person or been with the person who was good for them, things would have been very different. But that ego was all about being greedy and wanting the next best thing, or actually not caring enough about the person in front of them, because the whole thing was about them, about how that important they were, and they failed to realize the importance of the person in front of them. They failed to realize, this person needs me to spend quality time with them. This person needs me to ask them questions about themselves. This person needs me to take an interest in them. They need me to value their worth, because if I don't, then one day they're going to go from my life. I'm going to be left with no friends, because what comes in is fake friends, fake people a lot of the time, right? So please pay attention to the messages in Doctor Strange. Although it's fictitious in sense of it's a fictional movie, there is a lot of things in there, that a lot of messages, if you like, that are for the modern day person. And there's messages that need to be taken in order to construct a better life in the real world in this one. Multiverses apparently do exist. I believe they have found they do exist. I choose not to even kind of go there. One of my best friends believes in multiverses. I think it's highly possible it's true, but I do not want to go there. In my mind, I have been here in a past life before, so I'm focused on this one now. I think if we focus too much on the past, again, we repeat old problems and issues, and we don't actually progress in this life as it is now. So I'd love to know what you think about this movie, Doctor Strange. Did you like it? Did you not? I personally loved the movie. There's no sex in it. It was very, very amazing, incredible special effects. I like the fact that Doctor Strange went through a really important transformation, which was, not to be ego driven, but to actually free your mind of all this egotistical rubbish in order to be able to change your mind and allow it to naturally be able to do things you couldn't do to save yourself and to save humankind and humanity, So, yeah, I'd highly recommend Doctor Strange. It's a really good movie. I did like it a lot. I loved the spiritual aspect of it. I loved the way they went into all the, mindset stuff and becoming a better person, basically, and stop being ego driven. A lot of people would do well to take that advice. Anyway, I hope you've liked this no sex movie review. Definitely go and watch Doctor Strange if you haven't already. I watched it on Disney Plus because I'm going to Disneyland Paris. When I book my holiday, I get a free 12-month subscription to Disney Plus, basically, which is free movies. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode of this channel. I'll see you soon next video live stream. Lots of love. Comment below what you think. Bye.